Gentlemen, it is 7 o'clock, and I call this meeting of the General Government and Public Safety Committee to order. Would rise to me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll change to our agenda. Before we move on, I believe there are some scouts here that are doing some civic education. The mayor has their names.
Yep, Jacob Bentley, and Chase.
I don't see.
If you can stand up. All right, there you go. Thank you. Welcome to everyone else that's here tonight, too. Thank you all for coming.
Our next agenda item is comments from citizens. Looks like we have quite a crowd. If you're going to be talking about the CAP item, which is under 5CA, we're waiting until we get to that item in the agenda. Otherwise, if you have any other comments, please feel free. If it's not related to the feral cat item. All righty then. Hearing none, moving on to general government and finance. A, economic development, the credit report. You'll find that in your packet. Barry?
Good evening, everybody. Anybody have any questions or comments? We'd like to talk a little bit about some of the intern work. It's on the second page. Been doing some more grant searching, and I kind of helped him refocus a little bit to try to open his scope and his field of searching, and kind of go at it from the aspect of look for the grant first and then figure out what the criteria is to get the grant. We might be missing something if we limit ourselves on the front end, and then we might have to do some creative work there to be able to look at that further. So he's directing him to do that. We have assigned three additional people for the purchase of the purpose committee to work with the chamber, and Dave Martinez is one of the new members of that, and they'll be working with the chamber to try to develop and refine some marketing strategy. You know, we have the walk, the back to school walk or stroll, whatever it's called, they're coming up in August. I've also talked to Bernie Andrews, and he's helping us acquire lists of businesses that ask questions about the options for the area. So we're going to revise some of the letters that we had sent out earlier and try to refine that approach a little bit, and then work towards sending those out. We have actually got 2 responses from the 9 letters we sent out earlier. One of those was basically, thanks, appreciate your knowledge you've given us, but they're not interested in Missouri, not so much for what Missouri had to offer, but they had already made other decisions. The second company, Stag Arms, was one that is still open for review, so at least we got our name in the hat for that. And then Larry Dickerson, for those of you who don't know, Larry Dickerson is our community development specialist through the MU Extension Service, and he's heavily steeped in the ways of finances, fundraising. So I've asked Ryan to work with him so that we can continue to try to acquire some more funding to be able to get a full-time, or not a full-time, but to get a part-time staff person. And then Ryan needs to report on his activities and time spent to get his further education review from the university. So the rest of that are finances and the minutes from our meeting. Any questions or anything?
You know when the group for purchase with purpose is going to be?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. I know the chamber meeting is tomorrow, so I sent an email out late. I've got to go to Quincy on business tomorrow, so I'll be unable to attend that meeting. And I've asked the board members if one of those could attend my absence.
Found anything out about Hubble?
Have not. Agrees the wheel moves slowly. Very slowly.
Any other questions for Barry?
Did Scoop Elton give you a call yet?
No, he hasn't.
Okay. I'll give you a call, either later tonight or tomorrow. Talk to you a little bit more. Okay, thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to the park board. Give a report. Should look at the agenda. Any questions? Moving on to cemetery report.
There is one, sir. We got the annual, the Avenue of Flags all taken down. We're gonna go through and triage because some of the flags need to be replaced.
Okay. Library board. Information in your packet. Any questions? June financial statement. You'll find the information in your packet. Any questions or comments?
Seem to be running fairly well on target, with the exception of the semi-emergency purposes that you have authorized for the utilities department. Sure. And those are within budget. Just what we anticipated.
Excuse me. Moving on, bills over $1,250. Information's in your packet. Any questions?
You took delivery of the trash truck
We did.
last week?
Last week, it was in service on Wednesday and Friday.
All right.
Bill says it is almost exactly a duplicate of the one we had as far as the chassis, except that it has, like a lot of things nowadays, has a television for backing up.
All right. Backup camera.
That's where you're going with television.
The monitoring in case of fire.
On board, I told them they should not rely on that. These instructions are still, the second person is in back and guiding, but it gives them a little bit of an extra instead. And if somebody's waving or giving hand signals, you can see it better from the television than in the rearview mirror.
Okay.
AJ, what do we have at AJ's? 26 and 29.
Please go through. Who's first?
I'm sorry.
Now,
Oh, look.
What was the question?
Repair
Hey,
paint
Dave.
bucket truck for truck 26, repair paint bucket for truck 29. Labor.
Okay, electric then.
yeah.
Repair work. I have it here. Any other questions for bills over $1,250? Nope. Moving on, other general government, sale of 105 North Allen.
Okay, I did talk to Mr. Hatton this morning. They were the sole bidder. And their proposal is to cut a hole in the wall where there used to be a connection between buildings and put a sort of an airlock door and to prepare that area as a patio, dining area with fences before and after, so if they wanted to at some point, they could have a little beer service on site. But that's gonna take them a lot of money, and they're offering $500.
500.
500. It's within the range they checked, and they have limited resources, and they want to put their money into improvements to the building
Oh, sure.
lots.
Absolutely.
I convey that to you, and my recommendation is, after all this time, we need to divest ourselves of that property. I would recommend you give me instructions to have Mayor prepare a sale contract and an ordinance. But you can I don't think they're going to be in a position to offer anything else, and nobody else is interested in offering anything.
Sure. I think you should proceed forward. Lana, do you have any?
No.
Catherine?
You should have done this 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Don?
I'd like to get $50,000 for it, but I'm willing to take whatever we can get it off our books.
I don't think we should do that, but just adding some more zeros to it. Good. Yeah, proceed.
Yeah.
Very good.
Moving on to public safety, city prosecutor, any report, information?
No reports, sir.
Public safety,
I'm sorry?
on public safety?
Yeah. City prosecutor is what we're talking about.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on to fire department, activity report. You'll find that information in your packet. Any questions?
Thank you for awesome fireworks display.
Oh, absolutely.
Appreciate that every year. I know how much you love to do that.
And I like it that way.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to do something a little different on that, that's fine. We think that's blowing up inside each other, you really can't see it, we're gonna try to fan that out into the,
All
we'll
right.
experiment some, here we blow some of us up or something like that.
All right.
Don't give it over.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else under the fire department? Other?
How long did it take to get the road opened up after the grain truck tipped over last week?
I'm over at 8:15, so.
About-
Terrible.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
The vacuum they suck up the wheat was older type.
All right.
As modern as it could have been. It worked, yeah, hand crank model.
They got the telephone pole back up or?
No.
No,
Not yet?
there's not a rush.
Okay.
That particular pole was not needed to hold up the wire, transmission wires. It was there
Okay.
purely to provide a location for transformer surveying at Grace Body Shop,
Right.
which is not turned on. So, stand holds perfectly well. They'll get back to that pole and reset it, and pretty much
Okay.
stand on graces, but there's not any rush.
All right. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Police department activity report. You find that information in your packet. Any questions? Police department animal impoundment fees. You'll see a draft ordinance in your packet. Any comments, questions?
This is a draft, because you may direct us to have different amounts, but it contains all the sections in the code which refer to impoundment fees and or boarding fees, and there are a bunch of them. And after we put the structure of the ordinance together, Merrick had a few things that he wanted to clean up compared to what the language in the code is. And I had found in retyping it several typos that I corrected, and then I introduced a few more that Merrick corrected. And so at the moment, it purports to raise the impoundment fee from $10 to $20 and the boarding fee from $10 to $15. The thought behind that was it's easier to justify the impoundment fee without having to go to Ospey County. And then it also hits people up front, so it gets to everybody.
Okay.
But if you desire different amounts, now that things put together, we could change those amounts very quickly.
Do you remember when the last time the fees were raised?
We should ask them
Sorry.
in the code book.
Okay.
hasn't, I've been here 7 years, it hasn't happened.
It's been a long,
Yeah, it's been
a long time.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm okay with those fees you got listed there.
I showed it to Larry. Do you think that that will have some effect?
I hope.
I mean, you want to raise them up higher?
Well, if it's been 30 years, then we'll be able to raise them higher. If it's been 10 or 15 years, then I think this might be okay.
Let me go get the code.
Thank you.
I don't know that we're looking, this would call for a political decision, but I don't know that you're looking for this is a money-making thing, it's just
No,
one
to just
cross
use
to-
people.
Right.
Just do the right thing here.
But, you know, if we're going to update it, we might bring it up to kind of keep it in inflation returns.
To answer Mayor Grinke's question, since I've been associated with the board since '97, it has not been addressed. since
Okay, so it's been
Yeah.
length there. But Jerry just said it hasn't been adopted, increased since '97 since he's been here, so before that.
Some of these sections were in parts of the code we added for dangerous dogs and less than dangerous dogs. So let me go back to this.
I think keep in mind too, that you don't want to get in trouble with, Hancock trying to make money on something without a vote. Although I think we're way under the line here, might want to keep that in mind, please. Start thinking about opening and consider, I think that's what everyone's trying to do here.
What's the average dog call month that we go to from the town, or to the,
I don't know, you have the latest and greatest. shouldn't you?
yeah.
When we
We
talked
some
about,
change.
when we talked about that, when I first brought that up, we were exactly double, weren't we, or even
Mhm.
Yeah, we were double
double of where we were
of what we were last year.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I have to go back and get the ordinance books because we changed all those sections in '05, but I'm not sure the change related to the fee
Okay.
as much as conditions on
That's fine.
covering the animals. I think, if I'm reading this right, it was either in '97 or '99.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't have an issue with the current fee structure. I'm raising it to what it's.
I would say let's find all that, and if you can tell us for sure when, the last time it was raised, I think this would probably be acceptable.
Any thoughts?
I'm fine with it.
I'm good.
John?
I haven't got a strong opinion either way.
So definitely move forward.
Okay, I'll get that information out with the council packet and this agenda on, we'll put the ordinance on the board agenda for next Monday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving to other, feral cat report. I think we might have some people want to have some public comment on the subject.
Is that what this is about?
Absolutely, we are now through the feral cat report.
First, can I get
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, let's have Lynn give a little bit of background then.
This has come up a couple years ago. The ultimate result was the board instructed the code enforcement officer to keep picking up.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear.
This was taken up a couple years ago. The ultimate decision by the board was to continue to pick up stray cats as the code enforcement officer might find them. I talked to her about preparing a report that was in the council packet. It does not appear that they have been congregating in any one particular area, and she has some citizens helping her with traps, but there are not great numbers that are being picked up.
All right, that being said, before you start your comment though, if you would come to the microphone and give us your name and your address, please.
Okay. I have to start by saying that my speech-making abilities haven't improved since 2010. So y'all have to do that. My name is Connie Kelly, and I'm not a public speaker, I'm a computer geek. So, I was kind of alarmed when I watched, well, first of all, I saw in the paper a line that said feral cats, and that always gets my attention, because I do care for a colony of feral cats, as Ms. Simmons knows, and Mr. Magley must know, because he was the one complaining about them. I just had a little information I wanted to tell you. Hopefully we'll get through it without any like me peeing or something. I may be the cat lady you talked about last committee meeting. I currently care for one colony. That's one, Mr. Magley. I do not feed cats all over town. I wish I, had that energy, but I don't. Another statement that was made at the last meeting was that there was 13 cats by them people's houses. There have never been 30 cats, thank goodness. There started in the beginning in 2007 when I took over after seeing the cats on my street get hit time and time and time again. And I read about TNR, which is trap, neuter, and release. There were 14. Now there are 8 that eat there. 8, not 30. Okay? They don't always come every time to eat. I feed them twice a day. I give them water. Then another false statement that Mr. Norman said, or it might be that his recollection wasn't exactly right, was that I tried to get a law passed to allow feral cats. That's not true. I did not ask the council to allow feral cats. No one allows feral cats. They are a sad consequence of people failing to act as responsible pet owners. They exist whether we allow them or not. That's for reality. For anyone who is not here in the summer of 2010 or has not seen any of the newspaper articles that report our meetings, and for the council members and others that do not remember what was discussed, I have a typed copy of what I presented. What I asked to be considered was to exempt feral cat caretakers like myself from the pet limit so that we could be allowed to assist in managing the city's homeless cat population. That was all I asked for. Every one of the cats I care for has been vetted. That means they've been spayed or neutered. There has not been a kitten that came out of that group since I started in 2007. That's quite a feat, let me tell you. Because you know what cats like to do. There were 14 cats when I started, and now there are 8 that eat there. So that proves that trap, neuter, and release does work. That they also keep other cats from coming into the area because they establish a territory and do not welcome newcomers. If the cats are removed from this area, there will be a consequence called vacuum effect, which I talked about at the last time when I presented, which means that other cats will migrate to that area to fill that void. Whether you believe it or not, that happens. And if you read on the internet, it's not just cats. It happens with other wild animals too. There have been no kittens, like I said, that come out of that colony. Over time, they will die out naturally, given what we've done so far. At this time, I would like to remind the council that everything I have done, including spaying and neutering over 20 cats, has been at my own expense. No cost to the city. Trap, neuter, and return is recognized across the nation as the most humane and effective strategy for reducing feral cat populations. The Humane Society of the U.S. and the National Animal Control Association endorse it. That's the Animal Control Association, the code enforcement officers that do animal control, the National Alliance. Neuter and spay also reduces mating-related nuisance behaviors like fighting, spraying, and roaming, which in turn reduces animal control complaints. this translates to savings in real dollars, because you're not picking up those cats, because they're fighting and carrying on like they do. Let's see. It was adopted in 2010 by the city of Herman as their strategy to deal with homeless population of cats. Over 240 cities and municipalities across the U.S. have adopted TNR as their strategy for reducing feral populations. Over the last 6 years, if I had not intervened to manage the group, they could have produced a total that would go well over 500 cats. That's real money. You can't project how much manpower, kennel fees, and vet fees that would have cost. Trap and kill expenses come directly out of the city budget, and that strategy for feral control does not work, or we would not see any more feral cats on the street. After our last meeting in 2010 is when we had it, our agreement was that I would provide care for the cats, include feeding, watering, and vet care when needed, which I have one that I've had to take to the vet twice and have surgery. So you don't just turn them loose and let them go. They're all in very good shape. I would work with the animal controls officer when complaints are registered and attempt to resolve them. To date, I have not received any information from her about that. So I don't know that there's been a rash of complaints. I pulled up the last 3 editions of the newspaper, and there's like 3 or 4 mentions of traps, but not the word cat in any of the police reports.
Don't forget the chicken.
Oh, there was one poor chicken that went to chicken jail. I'm not sure what he did. It could have been the chicken back then. I'm not sure about that.
You're gonna take care of it, are you?
Poor thing. Let's see. Feeding takes place off the street on private property with the express permission of the property owner. As late as yesterday, he was happy to have the cats there because they help with vermin control by eating mice that inhabit the hayfield. I provide 4 shelters on the property, Mr. Borman, because the city code requires a doghouse for dogs, so I do not see why humane treatment of cats would not also include a shelter. To date, I have fulfilled everything that I promised in 2010. And Jerry was there during the presentation, and he said graciously he came tonight too, because he's also my neighbor. So that's about all I have. Didn't think.
Any questions for him?
I have one. I'm kind of curious. You started out with 14, and there's 8 now.
Yep.
And you have spayed and neutered 20, so there's been a little turnover. I guess a few have died. Have some more come in?
If they come in and I spay and neuter them, sometimes they don't stay. They go away because the other ones chase them off. But if I can catch them, I still can spay and neuter them, even if they're not part of that group. A couple of them have, I don't know if they got killed or what happened. So.
Okay. And so I guess I'm trying to figure out, is there a natural turnover in the colony at all?
Well, I say 20 because I have done ones that don't stay there. So I don't know if you would count them part of the colony.
Okay.
They were neighborhood cats. How's that?
Okay. So there's more cats than the 8 that we're talking about in the neighborhood that might be loose.
At one time or another, over the last, since 2007. I know most of the animals in our area. And when one gets out of the shelter, like the dog gets out or something like that, I don't call the police. I find out who it belongs to and I take them back. There's a couple people that their dog gets out all the time. I call them on their cell phone. I say, hey, your dog's out again. I don't think that's something the police should have to do all the time. And being a good neighbor is part of that. It's helping your neighbors. So that's what we do. We appreciate all your hard work too.
Yes, we do.
Appreciate that you appreciate it. Thank you.
I had to say it.
About how much does it cost to spay or neuter?
I work with a group, well, if you do it here in town and it's a normal, without any help from any people that do that as nonprofit organizations would speak, to get a cat neutered is $85 now, isn't it? They just had some neuter. It's at least $85, and that doesn't include the shots.
Okay.
And so the ones that I got done, I would average around $45. And so, that's why I'm here. There's an organization that would pay for that for me, but I am lucky enough to be able to have the money to do that. And so, other people that weren't as fortunate, I figured they could use that money. So I pay for every single thing.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Think how difficult it is getting my cat to the vet. I can imagine what it is to get a feral cat.
That is something that you never want to have to do. And so if you have to pick that cat up and deal with it and take it to the impound, that's not a good experience for the cat or the person.
100%.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So you just have one colony of cats, right?
That's it.
Okay.
And I know that they get on the street, but they're cats. There's no cat crossing, you know? I mean, they're bound to get in the street, a squirrel gets in the street. I understand, and I try to feed so that they won't be peak traffic times. But you're gonna see them because they live there. For the most part, they hide, because that's their nature. They're not gonna approach a person or a kid or anybody. They hardly come up there when I'm there. That's how they are. They're not socialized, but they're not dangerous by any means.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Any other comments?
My name's Terry Parrish. I live at 19901 Drew Road, Centralia, Missouri. And Andrew Stanton lives behind me. He's my neighbor on CC. I talked to him personally last night, and he wanted to remind you that that area where she feeds her cats is zoned agricultural. It is not zoned for houses. It's agricultural. It's where his cows are at, where he bales his hay. And he has absolutely no issues with that at all.
Any other comments? Sorry, go
It's
ahead.
a technical issue, but the area is zoned R1 single family, which includes agricultural uses. We don't have a specific agricultural zone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Sir?
This is weird view on this side of it. It really is. Jerry Harley, 816 West Root. I'm the councilman that brought this up 3 years ago, 2010, to do the TNR program. What the TNR program was originally supposed to do was to decrease the colony of the feral cats, which I think we have successfully done that through what she has done. She's taken the cost of her own pocket to do this. As she has stated, we've gone from 14 in 2007 down to 8 right now. When I pass that area, walking or riding my bike or even driving the cats, you don't see the cats. They're underneath the gutters, they're in the houses and everything. And Mr. Stanton, who owns that property, he keeps them mowed for her to put those shelters on there and the feeding lots on there. Those cats, I think 3 years ago, when we were talking about this at the same time, I had one citizen who actually said anything about the cats. And that was, why are we feeding them? Why is she feeding them? Wasn't a complaint. I didn't take it as a complaint. It was just more of why is she feeding them. The only thing that scares me is watching Miss Kelly climb the fence to feed the cats.
That scares me too.
I started doing that the other day, so that scares me. So, 3 years ago, we talked about a pilot program of TNR2 for the last 18 months back in 2010. This has been a 3-year pilot program, and we've seen that it has been successful. I think what I proposed 3 years ago was to the city adopt an official TNR program to alleviate some of the costs from Ms. Kelly to do that. The decision's all up to you. But I think one reason why she wanted to bring me up here this evening is just to get the historical background from somebody who was sitting on that side of the counter 3 years ago when we did this. It is a successful program. It is working. If you go to other TNR websites, they say we have 1,400 feral cats in the city of Centralia. I don't think so. The only colony that I'm aware of is the one on Adams Street that Miss Kelly takes care of. We're down to 8 cats there, and they scatter when you see them. And like I said, she takes care of all the costs. The TNR program, the city actually adopted the TNR program. That could be a cost that reverts back to the city. Who knows? Who knows?
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry.
Anyone else? Public comment? Yes, sir.
What I have to say, I can say Char before I walk up to the,
Okay.
in regards to the police department. The chief of police, I'd like to comment, he is a chief out of this world as far as I'm concerned. Every time I go up there, he's more than cordial to me, he helps me. I take care of the VFW guns. And I have never gone into that police department where I wasn't welcome, and they helped me with all. And I am a supporter of Con.
Sir, what's your name?
Jack Hargis, the cat man.
That's Centralia. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Any other comments from citizens? Council, any discussion on the matter? Was there a specific, is there someone who's complaining specifically about this issue?
Why are we discussing?
That'd be how it's going to be done.
I was requested to put it on the agenda.
Yes, it was, and I was just wanting to know why we were feeding the cats behind the downtown businesses.
The city's
There-
feeding.
No, there's not the city, there's somebody feeding cats behind the businesses on the alley on Singleton, behind Carlin's and all that.
All right, so I still don't know.
Yes, there's a colony of cats in there being fed every night. And I don't know who it is, and, I mean, I don't have a problem, if you wanna feed cats, I don't have a problem with it, but don't bring them downtown.
Right, you know,
You know, on Hickman, Adams Street, that's fine, that don't bother me, but we don't need them downtown.
Or do we have any idea what that is? That he's referring to?
I think that would only be speculation.
Okay.
I don't,
Yeah, I don't want to.
we tend to see who's doing what to do.
And that's what, you know, that's why I brought it up, to see why we're feeding the cats downtown. I'm sorry that it's not you all.
You're
But-
sorry that it's not us?
I mean,
Well, when I watched the video, which was very entertaining, and I had some popcorn at the time, I'm gonna come back up, so. My moment in the sun. And it was you that was complaining about me. And I didn't feel like I wanted you to just go on complaining. I wanted you to understand what was going on. So that's why we're here.
and you
They
know,
support it, and they know what I do. And I wanted all the new people, because there's a couple of people that weren't here at the last round. I'll get really good at this before it's over with. To understand what's going on. And I didn't want you to think there are a bunch of wildcats running all over the place. I mean, there are wildcats in this town, whether you want to admit it or not, and you can't pick them all up. And the problem becomes that if you don't fix them and return them, there are different ways to look at it. If you just pick them up, you can't possibly get everyone that's out there. You just can't. There's no way to do it. I mean, we've proven that over time, it doesn't work. So what the theory of TNR is that you pick them up, get them vetted, put them back there. They're no more babies and they eventually die. But new ones don't come in there. That's it. But right now we have a big problem because even in our neighborhood, cats are being abandoned. I mean, a cat was abandoned on Sunset because someone moved and just left it. Now, I did not call animal control because I have resources. I got the cat. He was not fixed. Thank you very much. I was one of the millions that I fixed. His name's 20. Took him to the vet, got him shots, got him fixed. He ended up going into Illinois to a rescue there. So that was a good outcome. But people are abandoning their animals, whether they grow up feral, they start out feral, or they're just hard strays. Because people are just putting them out because they can't afford it, or they move and they can't take it with them. So eventually, it's going to become a bigger problem than we even have now. So it's something to look at in the future, a way to manage it.
I agree, and I appreciate your comment with respect to that, in that these folks move out of town and I just leave these animals,
do.
not just cats.
Yeah.
It gets in your pocket
Oh, yeah.
pretty quick. and I appreciate you.
Well, you know, I don't think the government should do everything. I think that I should help. So that's what I do.
And I say, God bless your feet, pick it
Well,
hard.
right. But I don't, you know, I don't wanna be ostracized for that.
If-
But people leave their animals and then it's someone's problem.
If some in your network hear or see or hear what Mr. Magley's talking about, get into that a little bit, let's see who's doing what to whom, see if your group can help with that. It's certainly,
I would be glad to investigate that and
Yeah.
see if there's a way to resolve it. The cats are gonna be the cats, and the cats are gonna be around. And if we can decrease the numbers and you at least put a hold on it.
I say if you're here.
You know, pick up and kill, that doesn't work. We know that doesn't work. So we're looking for different answers.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So is it time to revisit the PNR discussion as a city program?
Well, as I recall, last time we didn't choose to do that, but we also chose not to cause a problem over it either.
Right.
So maybe that's the best way to leave it, I don't know.
And I think part of the hesitation for doing anything last time was budgetary concerns. You know, it would be nice if we could help with the TNR program, but we have to look at what our resources are and where they're most needed. And I think that was the big reason why we opted not to get involved, but to just let things be.
Sorry, do you have a question?
No, I don't have a question, I have a proposal, I guess. My proposal would be for Connie to really investigate this TNR thing, what it would cost the city, how many cats realistically do we have, what it would take to get them under control, where are they? Is somebody taking care of them now that we don't know? I don't really know, but, you know, we've all kind of thrown this TNR thing around, and even me, I don't know as much about it as Connie does, but if she would do an investigation on it for a city of our size, maybe she could give you guys some more information.
I would never turn down information.
Pardon me?
I would never turn down information.
Herman, Missouri, did adopt its TNR code. So that's a small town that we could compare to. I mean, I don't know, if you just read the code, you might get some ideas. I don't know. Just an idea.
Ma'am, I didn't write down your name.
Con. Oh, that's
No,
Cinda
no, I
White.
got Con.
Cinda White.
Cinda White,
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't give it.
Any other comments about cats? Moving on. Emergency management. Thank you, sir. Protective inspection.
Did you have something?
Dangerous structures.
Dangerous structure?
There's information from, flip through the packet. We passed it around at our last meeting, I believe. With pictures.
Yes. And what was it, 137?
153
153 hours
in 20
and 20
days.
days?
That's today.
That was just on the first page.
My thoughts are, what are we doing? I don't want to own that property. I think it might come down to it. I mean, it's literally, we just did an informal little field trip out there, and it is has significant things going on with the building. So what everyone's thoughts would be.
I don't want to own the building.
I don't either.
I think we should let him continue to work on it. I don't want to say not a business either.
Okay, so what if it falls on somebody or somebody's car, and then they come to the city and say, what are you gonna do about this? and you're saying, I didn't want on the building, so. I mean, what do we do then?
We hope that our insurance carrier is really, really good.
Who's?
His and ours.
His, ours,
I bet we'll have trouble with our insurance, knowing that that building's been in that shape for that long.
But as old as that building is, there's liable to be asbestos in there, there's liable to be lead in there, there's liable to be oil in there, soaked into the floor and stuff. And I don't want us to pay for the cleanup on it. I would assume that'd be his problem and not ours. He's in business for himself, he's working on it. Let's let him continue to do that.
My question is, I think, I don't remember who brought it up tonight, but when we go to talk about other buildings in town that are starting to deteriorate and violate the dangerous structure ordinance, and we try and send them a letter, they're gonna point right back to that building and say, well, you know, what do you have me for? You know?
it's already happened.
There has to be something done.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And I don't know what that is at this point.
Well, there's some huge unknowns to me. If we were to condemn, demolish, whatever, it would.
Took some notes.
Right? You know, I hesitate to use the word condemn.
No, I'm just,
Because
I'm saying it's something that we have to take over and the cleanup cost. There's a huge unknown in that.
Right.
And then your thoughts?
In the past, except for 105 Allen, where it was clearly already demolished and we could not force an absentee landlord to do anything with it. So he signed it over to us and we got it in full. Other dangerous structures, we have not taken it upon ourselves to tear down until we had court say it was in clear violation. And then the tactic we used was not to go do it ourselves even then, but to keep fining, charging, fining, the thought that to force the owner to take action rather than keep paying for expenses that didn't have any outcome.
Sure.
And that worked on a lumberyard over on Switzler and a couple other places. It's not intended to be as long as it's taken with this building, but the one time we didn't get to the court, we didn't get the desired outcome.
Right.
Side issue, just out of noticing that Mr. Del Rosa's submitted pictures to us of other buildings and he did it without comment. The buildings appear to be Tangles and Richmond Graphic storage buildings, and they do have stucco falling off them. But I find nothing that would,
Right.
yeah, there's nothing for a dangerous structure notice in there.
Right.
I could find others that really are and have received notices, but these don't.
Yeah.
In the packet, you had the first letter to Mr. De La Rosa that I sent, the final legal declaration that it's a dangerous structure, and the points that I raised in that notice are reflected in a copy of the relevant portion of the city code, where I put stars against those standards that would appear to be in violation that were cited in the dangerous structure notice.
I don't think we should give up on trying to push the issue by any means. So you're saying the strategy that you lined out has worked in the past? The lumberyard needs to.
It wasn't the same sort of building, it was a wooden building, but
I mean, this is one that got away, and it got away from us, not by our lack of efforts, but because we had an unfavorable ruling that was many years ago, back when conceivably there could have been some salvaging of what was there if somebody would have had the means
Wherewithal.
to have addressed it then. Years have gone by. Under the circumstances, it's been a game of buy time. To what end game, I have no idea.
That's wrong. Exactly, I completely agree with
I
you.
have no idea, other than the best that I can see is that for him and for the city, there is absolutely no favorable result, period. It's to a point where it's such a mass of stuff, I think it's deteriorated enough to where even if you had the means now, there's no slowing it down, or, I mean, it's coming down, I think, just looking at it. I made several phone calls. I didn't bring my notes tonight. I thought I'd stuck it in this book, but just to get rid of the bricks was something like $40,000. And that's not dumping it with tipping fees. That's finding some suitable use not too far from town for clean fill.
Right.
And it's if the thing starts crumbling and comes down, I mean, I'm not sure. Clifford's in a bad position. The city's in a bad position. I understand the citizens wanting something done. I agree it's a safety hazard. But at this point, there's not a lot to be done unless the citizens want to fork up some money. And as much grief as I got over Allen Street up there, no thanks. You guys can take it up when I'm gone. That's my opinion. Because that was a nightmare. It grew. It was supposed to be a little bit easier. As we got into it, it was a learning experience. There was more engineering involved, a little bit trickier. That's pretty straightforward, probably. But you're talking a lot of money just because it's so stinking big and such a problem. I'm sorry, that was my rant.
We do have the additional problem that if we took it upon ourselves to take down the building, how are we going to find out who owns all the equipment that's in that building and return it to them?
State of
Clifford
Missouri
doesn't
has
own
a, lost and found, so to speak.
Can you please identify just small engines?
You recall that when we were pursuing this before the hearing, there is a gentleman who has a car over there that is not yet fixed, or it wasn't fixed at the time, who was worried that he was going to lose his car in the operation of condemning the building, and I'm sure he wouldn't. But besides all the small engines, there are about 3 or 4 cars over there being repaired. And Mr. De La Rosa does have a business license.
Right. Technical car.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a little more.
Dave,
Sir,
yeah,
absolutely.
I'm not elected to office, but I think we're looking down the road talking about taking his building. I think there's a lot of steps before we get there. I think we gotta find a way to make reasonable goals and objectives, and what the consequences for failing to meet those goals and objectives might be. Because we can't, I'll just say it publicly, as a government body, we can't be told what we're gonna do to a certain extent. We have rules and regulations that everyone's supposed to apply to. We've been more than patient. I have nothing against Clifford or his business. We have rules and regulations here. We're talking about taking his building from him, and we're not even to that horizon yet. We're talking about specific goals and objectives that ought to be set with clear consequences for failing to meet the same, period. That's my rant for tonight.
You will notice also in your packet, there was a memo from Merritt. I had told him that the mayor had asked about getting a transcript from the hearing. He suggested it might be not best use of money, but he did refer to his notes, which got the same information he needed, which is what Clifford suggested he could do, but it's not legally binding. And he has not held to it to the best of what I can see.
And anybody,
I think we ought to tell him, you know, if you're doing this, give us what you want to be done. And we'll give him so many days, or so many months, however long, and start progressing. And if he doesn't, we start, you know, giving him a fine. Or, I mean, big construction companies, they got a set date when they gotta be done. If they're not done, then they start getting fines, and they're high.
well, there's liquidated damages depending on the project.
You know, so I think that's what, if we wanna go that route, I think that's the way we ought to go. Otherwise, he's just writing a diary. I mean, anybody can write this stuff down.
Go ahead.
My whole purpose for asking for the informal gathering at the building tonight was to kind of take a close look at the outside of it. When we sent a letter back in October last year, it was kind of generalized based on what the ordinance says. Lane did a good job of generalizing things that needed to be addressed. Well, he used that generalization to justify his work on the inside of the building, which is not visible to anybody. He won't let anybody in the building to go look at it. So, meeting out there tonight, we got the chance to look at what the condition of the outside of the building looks like. I think we need to draft a letter addressing specifics on the outside of the building and give them specific dates of when to have these parts of the building corrected.
No milestones as to.
Milestone.
There's gotta be snow getting in there, cause there's 4 things in here he's been shoveling snow.
Right.
Couldn't
So-
work cause he was shoveling snow.
So to be more specific in what we as the body, as the government body, want to see accomplished with that building, I think we can pull some additional things out of the ordinance that we can use specifics. For instance, the southwest corner of the building above the window got a huge crack in it. It's only a matter of time before strong wind or rain comes and knocks that part of the building down. On the east side of the building, there's massive vine growth that's accelerating the deterioration of the brickwork on the outside of the building. You know, that kind of stuff. Be more specific on what milestones we want to see. What do you
But,
thought?
yeah, I certainly think that a milestone we come up with needs to be backed by, because you are in violation of this section of the ordinance.
Right.
You know, this milestone, you must, if we're just going to say it needs to look better or whatever, I mean, it needs to all be rolled up to a specific item in the ordinance, because that's what we're relating it back to. Otherwise, there's no enforcement in this anyway.
It has to meet the standards of the ordinance, which are by and large taken verbatim from state statute. And I can list specifics, but they need to relate back to the general classifications of what the ordinance says.
And that's my whole point, though, is that whatever milestone we put, it needs to be backed by the fact that we're saying it's this section of the ordinance that is supporting the fact that we must do this.
Okay.
I'm not sure that a judge would saying that vines are a violation.
That's
No,
a
that
separate-
that was an example.
That was a-
For instance, subsection F says those under construction upon which no substantial work shall have been performed for 90 days immediately next to the time that the notice shall issue under section 5-18. I mean, is his building considered under construction or under destruction or, you know? He has a building
I
permit.
feel it's under destruction, but technically his argument was it's under construction, he had a building permit, a set of plans. Some of
12 years
which,
ago?
yeah, it was some, well, that's why
Yeah.
Judge Kelly told us he wasn't in violation of the ordinance. He had a set of plans and a building permit that had outlasted its usefulness even at the time of the trial. Now I don't think it's possible to follow the building permit, but our building permits do not have an expiration date, so. You know, as long as he can come and swear in court that he is following his building permit, then it's back to us to prove that he's not.
Well, that's why there was references to things that were externally visible.
Yes.
Right.
That's why, that has to be the linchpin of this, is that we make references to all those things that we can observe from the street. John?
Trying to grasp something.
Catherine, do you have any?
Well, just reading through this, I'm concerned about Article 2, Item H. Those containing therein substantial accumulations of trash, garbage, or other materials susceptible to fire or constituting or providing a harboring place for vermin or other obnoxious animals or insects, or in any way threatening the health of the occupants thereof or the health of persons in the vicinity thereof.
See, Lynn cited that one in his last letter.
And at the time, I had been in, not far, but I had been in a couple of times, and there was still a lot of material there. One of the things Clifford put in his diary specifically was that he was removing the flammable, discarded material to correct that deficiency. And since then, I had not been in to validate that, and I suspect under the way that things have developed, I would probably have to go to court and get a search
I
warrant.
was gonna say, I think that should go. I thought we'll throw open the doors for you.
No, I almost guarantee it.
Lynn and I and Alderman Borman walked down there one time a few months ago. And he came out and he wouldn't let us look at the door.
And you see also item number K.
Yeah.
Those which have parts thereof which are so attached or deteriorated that they may fall upon public ways or upon the property of others, or may injure members of the public or the occupants thereof.
Well, that's why all the external walls are just obviously, I mean, they're literally, I think that's an easy one.
Caving in or
Yeah.
caving out.
That's
you know?
just, I
Yeah.
mean, that's very visible. You
Yeah.
can see that from the corner here.
Hey,
Go ahead.
well, I just want to say, you know, I think I've said this in the past, that, you know, I'm all about the government staying out of people's business. But when that business is in downtown Centralia and citizens have the opportunity to walk along that street or drive or park along that street, and it's a danger to the citizens of the community, you know, not to mention for during Anchor Fest or the barbecue contest, or, you know, whatever function we have in town, it's not only an eyesore, but it's also a safety hazard.
I remember talking about this when I first came to town. And
Yeah.
moved here. So it's been going on
Yeah.
for a while.
So had his business been out in the country, not affecting anybody walking by it or something like that, you know, that's his private property, he can do with it what he wants. But when it becomes a safety hazard or a safety violation or an ordinance violation, I think we as a city body need to act on
Jim, do you have any?
Oh, I'd have to say it's approaching an impossible situation for me. I don't wanna take a man's building, I don't wanna limit his ability to make a living by. And I don't know how you compel somebody to do work. I mean, I heard you talking about the setting guidelines and goals, and the buzzword that popped in my head was busy work, because the time he's spending working on a building that we all realize is beyond repair. And all that's at the expense of the time he might be able to do, you know, industrious work with the small engine business. I don't know, it just makes my stomach sick. I mean, I hate the whole situation. I don't know what to do about it.
I think every one of us here feels that same way. You know, I mean, I feel that way. I don't want to take a man's building. But I also don't want that building falling on somebody and you know, damaging vehicles or, you know, God forbid, killing somebody.
Person.
You know? I mean, I hope he or nobody else is in that building when it does fall down.
Then would you be able to at least come up with a bullet item of what we're talking about, just for us to review?
I'll give it my best shot to describe it as it relates to the ordinance, as it relates to specifics.
Okay.
You can take it.
Absolutely, that's the whole point. Excuse me.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Any other?
No new building permits for residences, although I don't expect everyone to come to talk to me about it. One of the buildings under demolition is complete, but the one that was damaged by the fire and the one on North Allen are still in progress. They're down, but they're not cleaned up, and all the debris is not removed. I have started talking with one of the owners of the property that Mr. Mangley has asked about in the past. It has a porch roof that's collapsed, and he intended to make use of the property, but that has changed, and he agrees that it's not in condition to be repaired, it's unsalvageable, and he is looking at possible people to tear it down. Let him know at that.
Okay.
It's in an area that might be useful for building duplexes or apartments.
Okay.
I'm trying to see steering that way too.
As we arise, the architect's selection subcommittee.
This doesn't need to be discussed now, but after we adjourn, if we could just get together and give me instructions on which architect to talk to. And proceed.
I got a question, you for the other, are you ever gonna finish the street there on Jefferson for the sidewalks for the kids going to across from the high school?
It is.
It's supposed to have been done a long time ago. The way I understood it was because Springer had a contract with y'all to do that. I mean, that's the way I understood it.
The developers of Emerald Point subdivision had an obligation to repair a sidewalk along the about 300 foot, perhaps a little more, of the east side of Jefferson and Emerald Drive north. The thing is, we're not ready to do that. It can't be done in an economic way to build sidewalk without filling in the ditch, putting in roadway that we don't have a design on what the elevation is going to be. So instead, the P&Z and the board traded that becoming a city obligation at some point when we do the rest of the street. And the developer paid for street, sidewalk, curb and gutter on the other end of the street connecting with Howard Burton. I think financially the city got the better of that deal, but it allowed us to postpone the sidewalk in front of Darren Ford's house and his neighbors until such time as we can design a whole street project. In the interim, the intermediate school got designed and we put our money and efforts into the streets there, which just finally paid off in April. We're doing street work on Switzler that supports our major industry.
Are you fixing Switzler or just
We're replacing Switzler.
the whole street?
Yes.
Oh, well, from Jefferson to Howard Burton.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yes, that, by the way, not starting this week, will likely start 2 weeks from today, weather permitting.
Yeah, 'cause that was a dangerous street.
There is not a schedule for continuing with Jefferson on down to the city limits.
But I see a lot of those kids walking across that blacktop, cutting across over there to Smith's place and then coming down to the, there about Cox Street.
I'm aware of that.
And
If we
I
can
mean-
put in a sidewalk, it would likely have to be torn out whenever they did this.
The worst part about it scares when they're smoking, walking across there in front of that gas thing, you know, but you can't stop that, so. But, you got,
Not terribly safe.
you've got, huh?
Not terribly safe.
It's not terribly safe.
No, it's not.
No.
It's not what?
Safe.
It's not terribly safe.
No, it's not, but what I'm saying is, we got ditches down through there, all the way down to Emerald Drive there.
Yes, sir.
There's ditches down there, all you have to do is put the culverts in.
The culverts would have to be designed and installed in conjunction with an overall engineered plan on how to build Jefferson for the remaining 3 blocks. Otherwise, the odds are that just as great that the storm sewer would not be at the right elevation to join curb and gutter either. We have to design a whole street there, and it has not been done. So you can't take it piecemeal. You may be able, after the fact, to do small sections in advance of a total project, but we'd have to first have the council direct us to have an engineer prepare a design. And then it would probably
Well, I
sit
know
on
it's
the shelf for a long
overdue.
time.
I mean, it's overdue, guys. That's dangerous for them kids. You all cut it however you want to on price or money, put it however you want to, but it's dangerous. I don't have kids in school, but I see them coming across there all the time. And it's not good. Because you know them people coming down Z and off of the No Chance Road, they're not running very slow. So,
Maybe we could find another safe routes to school grant.
so
There isn't any.
We tried that, to finish off Columbia Street, and we were turned down.
yeah, there's not much of it.
Sir, what's your name?
Wendell Wright. I live on 820 Jefferson.
It's related with this budget year.
No, money's committed for Switzerland.
Not to say it's not an important project, it's just.
Well,
that-
which I know Switzerland was overdue.
Okay.
It's been like that for 40 years. You know,
We tried to do both Switzerland and the part of Jefferson between the tracks, and we didn't have enough money for it. So the part between the tracks is postponed. Could be postponed again, but we also need to do some overlays. And part of Jefferson between the tracks had the advantage of going to fix up a lot of sidewalk in the middle school.
That's where we got our side.
Thank you for your comment.
Fence.
Anything else for tonight's meeting?
I have one quick thing, if I
Sure,
might, please.
absolutely.
I appreciate the scouts being here. You might have read in the paper last week, Jacob's older brother Patrick was a big part with his Eagle Scout project. He and Officer Allison Brooks, our SRO, worked on that bicycle safety thing. I thought it went over just really good. That's a good project, and I appreciated their efforts with respect to it. Pretty good job with that.
Well, if nothing else, I would,
I think we adjourn.
better be second.